Today is April 28th, 2026. Welcome back to the nullmicgo channel. If you thought the AI world could not move any faster, the last news cycle proved otherwise. This episode is written for builders, developers, platform engineers, and solution architects who need to connect headlines to roadmaps, risk registers, and total cost of ownership. We will walk through 10 stories that sit at the intersection of partnerships, compliance, geopolitics, workplace ethics, and the physical power grid. First, the long-running Microsoft and OpenAI relationship entered what Microsoft calls the next phase. The piece on the Microsoft blog from April 27, 2026, frames the update as an amended agreement focused on clarity and customer benefit. From a solution architecture angle, that matters because these deals set the ground rules for how Azure OpenAI service, enterprise licensing, and API behavior evolve together. When the commercial model is clearer, your team can plan multi-year rollouts of agents, retrieval systems, and fine-tuned workflows without guessing whether the integration surface will change every quarter. For application developers, the practical signal is stability: which SKUs, which regions, and which support tiers you can standardize on for production. It is not just a press release, it is the contract layer that your platform team has to map into reference architectures. The same week, the fight between Elon Musk and Sam Altman moved from social posts into a courtroom. Ars Technica reported a trial that could shape OpenAI's corporate structure and mission, with implications for how the company balances nonprofit roots and commercial products. Wired added that Musk amplified a New Yorker article about Altman on X as the trial began. If you run production on OpenAI APIs, the engineering takeaway is governance risk, not celebrity gossip. Verdicts and settlements can change board priorities, product packaging, and even API terms. Smart teams keep a vendor exit or multi-model strategy in the backlog, and they document which workloads are tightly coupled to proprietary endpoints versus portable standards like function calling and generic HTTPS. Architects should ask, what is our Plan B model if the legal or policy environment shifts, and how fast can we reroute traffic? Unwire, HK, also dated April 27th, reported that China's National Development and Reform Commission blocked Meta's large acquisition of the AI company Manus in a case that notes re-registration in Singapore did not clear the path. For program leads who buy companies or technology abroad, the lesson is that AI deals now trigger product and data residency questions that go past a simple cap table. You may need a separate integration plan for each major market, and your due diligence has to include regulatory clearance and cloud region strategy, not only intellectual property. It is a reminder to document where models are trained, where data is stored, and which regulators can say no. On the public sector side, OpenAI's blog announced FedRAMP moderate authorization for ChatGPT Enterprise and the OpenAI API. FedRAMP is a U.S. federal baseline for security controls on cloud services. For a developer, that is less about the acronym and more about the paperwork you inherit: logging, access control, incident response, and the evidence trail your security team needs. If you sell software to government or regulated industries, you can now slot these offerings into a controlled architecture, where previously you might have been blocked. If you are in the private sector only, the spillover is still real. The same hardening and operational discipline tends to move downstream, which can help your enterprise security review. Platform architects should align identity providers, data classification, and egress rules before you promise FedRAMP-ready deployment in a statement of work. A different kind of internal pressure showed up at Google. The Verge covered a letter, signed by hundreds of employees including DeepMind staff, asking Sundar Pichai to rule out classified military AI work for the Pentagon. For engineering leadership, the signal is that AI ethics and employee sentiment are now product requirements. Your org chart may need an explicit policy on which customer segments you will serve, which contracts require executive review, and how you avoid scenarios where a single high-value defense engagement contradicts the values statement on your career site. For solution architects, classify workloads early. If a customer asks for classified or export-controlled environments, you have to know whether your chosen cloud stack, models, and third-party APIs are even eligible. That is not a Friday afternoon email, it is a design decision. The South China Morning Post, also circulating in the Hacker News community, reported aggressive pricing. DeepSeek's new V4 model listed far below OpenAI's GPT-5 on the order the headline describes as a very large discount. If you are building cost-sensitive applications, the architecture move is to add a smart router layer. You cache prompts, you route simple tasks to smaller or cheaper models, and you only spend flagship tokens on tasks that need them. Benchmarks on a slide deck are not enough. You still need to run your own evals, measure latency, and test failure modes on your own data. A solution architect will document unit economics per request and update FinOps dashboards when list prices move, because a tenfold price gap changes which product features are even viable at scale. Tech News in Taiwan recapped a sharp podcast conversation with NVIDIA's Jensen Huang and the host Dwarkesh Patel, including friction over how to frame export controls, chips, and the analogy of enriched uranium. The engineering lesson underneath the debate is supply and geography. If advanced accelerators are scarce and politically sensitive, you design for heterogeneity. That means mix CPU-GPU clusters, use quantization and distillation, plan regional inference, and keep your model serving stack portable. It also means procurement has to start early, because the critical path to production is no longer just software sprint velocity, it is lead time for hardware. On infrastructure and energy, Meta's newsroom described partnerships around space-based solar and long-duration storage, explicitly tied to powering data centers and AI. For developers, that sounds far away, but the architectural link is carbon and cost. Your sustainability OKRs and your power purchase agreements eventually show up as which regions you can grow in and which co-location partners have real renewable depth. TechCrunch reported that data center load is pushing the cost and build time of natural gas plants higher. If electricity gets expensive and slow to build, the cloud bill is not the only line item that moves. You may face capacity caps, higher spot prices, or limits on new clusters. Capacity planning and batch scheduling on the software side are now part of the same conversation as power engineering. Senior architects need to work with FinOps and facilities together, not in silos. Pulling the threads together, the system is maturing, but the constraints are piling on. Partnership terms, law, government authorization, internal ethics, cross-border M&A, price competition, semiconductors, and the physics of the grid. The next phase of delivery is not only smarter models, it is smarter trade-offs. I linked every source in the description with the original titles as stored in our list. If a story changed your roadmap, leave a note in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Stay curious, stay informed, and take care.